Thinking back, I mean, I got my first guitar. I wanted a guitar because I loved Angus Young's Red SG, and then I seen Kerry King's Red Mockingbird, and I was like, that's my guitar. So I went down to a guitar store. I bothered I don't know if it was my grandmother or somebody. My grandparents were into music. My grandfather was a clarinet player in like an Italian quartet down in Philly when he was younger. So they were like, okay, you want to get a guitar? So I went down to this New Jersey shop down south, bought this white Mockingbird. They only had white, they didn't have red at the time. Didn't really know guitar. So at home, I think you asked friends and it was Smoke on the Water. Like that's the easiest one to learn. I think maybe after that was Iron Man by Sabbath. I think that, yeah, it was definitely Smoke on the Water, the most cliched answer ever. But yeah, in my time, that was the go-to learning riff. Even if you went to a music school, there was a couple on the avenue by me where I used to live when I was younger, and that was the first riff. What'd you learn? Oh, Smoke on the Water. So, when I got into Incantation, um, we played the one show at out in Rhode Island, and then we started to write some riffs. And I had a couple of riffs I was messing around with, and they wound up being used in the song "Christening the Afterbirth" from Incantation. So
Sick.
I do have a couple of riffs that sometimes John, when I would see Incantation after I was out of the band, he's like, "Oh, Bill in the audience there, he wrote a couple of these riffs. I'll point to Bill when the part comes up," and we used to joke about it. But there was a couple of fast riffs I had that he liked when we were jamming. This was when Jim Rowe was in the band and Will from Mortician was still singing. And I played a couple of riffs, and I was like, "Oh, that sounds pretty good." So that wound up being the song "Christening the Afterbirth." So that was probably the first riff I wrote that was contributed into an actual song that was published. Definitely the Abhorrent 7-inch. That's got a sick guitar tone. That was always a favorite of mine. What's another one? The Paradise Lost, the first album, something about that tone was just, it had a weirdness to it because you could tell it was like kind of like not as distorted as you think it was. It was kind of like an open, almost like a pushed overdrive tone. It just gave it such a like a weird creepiness. Like you couldn't like recreate that with like an EMG pickup guitar at full gain. You would never get that sound. So that was always like the mystery tone they would achieve. Um, and then probably like Slayer or Metallica. Like I don't know, back when that stuff came out, there was nobody pushing the guitars like that in like 85, 86. Like you didn't hear guitars like that anywhere. The font's been out for a while. Somebody showed me like they were joking with me. They were like, "Oh, someone made a font on the font website that you download to get different fonts that people use for album covers and typing and everything." I was like, "Really?" And they showed me. This is probably like maybe 6 years ago, maybe. And I was like, "Wow, really? Somebody really liked what I did?" And as you've seen from the ones Roy showed you, there was like 4 or 5 versions before the band liked the final one I did, which
Yeah.
they colored in. They made it solid. It was originally going to have like all those like vine. I do, yeah. I mean, I like it because that was my format when I was young. Um, when we were young, it was cassettes and records, LPs, and the 45s. They were called back then. They weren't called 7 inches. They were 45s, and there was still like 8 tracks because I used to have AC/DC Back in Black on 8 track as a kid, and my family had it.
Hell yeah.
But cassettes, like those were mine because me and my friends, I would have a boombox, and I wanted to bring my music with me when I was hanging down the tracks with my friends, drinking beers. We'd have a fire. There'd be like 20, 30 of us just listening to it. They would be tortured listening to stuff that no one even heard on the planet. And you have like cheerleaders of the local high school team listening to like Forbidden. And they have no idea what it is, It's like there was one show with Slayer at L'Amour's when I used to play that little venue. And they got Agnostic. I've seen them a couple times there in the Ritz, but the one show, I think they Agnostic Front opened up for them. Wow. And usually, when you go to a New York City show and Agnostic Front's playing, you clear the floor for their people. You're going to get fucked up in the pit. They rule the show. They're all, they're an awesome band.
Right.
And they always kick ass. But that night, Slayer was you just heard the whole crowd when they came on. Slayer, pounding on the bar. And Roger Mayr's like, just drops the mic. He's like, oh, let them go on. Fuck it, we're out of here. Like, they maybe played 2 or 3 songs. The chant of the people, like, overpowered the PA.
Wow.
I wish there was video of that somewhere. I tell people that story. They're like, no way. I was like, it had to be like, I want to say 1990, maybe 89. I forget what show it was, but that show was brutal. Usually, like, you go to those venues and you're up the front, you're in the pit, and then to the back, there was a bar that faced the entrance. Yeah. And usually you can go back there safely to get your beer without spilling it. Like, you go back, your beer, you get a beer, you go to turn around, boom, it's over your shoulder, it's on top of your buddy. Like, there was no way to drink beer in there that night. And then they had like basically like a conveyor belt of bouncers just carrying people out of the pit that got demolished,
Yeah.
Just out the door, like people just getting hammered in there. It was one of the sickest shows ever, man. Just seeing Slayer in that atmosphere. It's like, I'll never forget it. And then maybe, I don't know, maybe 13, 14 years ago, Iron Maiden at this local venue that we have by us, PNC Arts Center. And it's like an outdoor amphitheater. And they were playing, and going along in concert with them was a thunderstorm. And it was like almost in sync. So it was like, da, 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 bang, like lightning and thunder at the same time, like just queued up to certain parts in the songs where Bruce was like looking for crowd participation, and you hear a clap of thunder, and it was just like, wow. It was pretty amazing. Then it was like a torrential downpour, and you have like these seat cushions that are on the seats, and there's like a lawn above that. People were just taking them, sliding down the mud. But it was just like an amazing, like, Iron Maiden concert. It was like, holy crap. And, even my friends, we still talk about it to this day. We're like, that was fucking awesome how it just synced up with the storm that was going on.